it was strictly already a starvation camp. The camp was surrounded by SS at all times, and they were going to blow up the camp to not to leave any evidence because the Allied forces were closing on that camp.
Segore, we'll run out of time, but I think this is so important, I think, to talk about this, that we're going to have to show in two parts. We're going to come back again next week just to go. I know there's a famous story. People, please be in tune, because as people have talked for many years, have talked about the story with the watch, and I think this is important for us to hear about. And thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.
It was my pleasure.
Shalom. Welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Delmar Chabad Center, and we have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Anton Segore, survivor from the Holocaust. Welcome, Mr. Segore, to the Jewish View.
Thank you.
Well, we talked about, Mr. Segore, about many of your Holocaust, unfortunately, your experiences there and your first-hand reports, which are better than any, I think, expert can give, because this way we see firsthand exactly some of the problems that were in the Holocaust and some of the experiences you went through. A few of the artifacts, actually, you've brought with you to show our listeners and our viewers today. Please explain them.
I had with me a little prayer book, which is one side, it's Hebrew, and the other side, the translation of Hungarian. And since to pass time and to, whenever I prayed from this little book, spiritually I felt better, and what kept me going on. And
you took this along with you from Hungary to the concentration camp?
Yes. Now, just before we were taken away from our camp in outside Budapest, first they robbed us. All our valuables was taken away from us, and I hid this little book in my pocket because I was an optimist person then, that I felt that they are not going to search everybody in the long train. I knew that how many cars, or how many cattle wagons were on that train, that they won't take that time out to look through everybody's pocket. And unfortunately, my father wasn't that lucky. He had this watch with him with a heavy gold chain. He obtained this watch. He served during the First World War with the Austro-Hungarian army, and he exchanged this watch for a loaf of bread in 1916, where people were starving. My father was telling me, and an SS took this watch away from my father, and 20 6 years went by, I went the very first time that I returned back to Hungary. I arrived in the United States in 1946. I was the very first Holocaust survivor arriving in the Capital District. And because I had some relatives on my mother's side living in Albany, so I was sent out from New York City to Albany, and I received a letter years and years later from my brother that why don't I consider, in 1971 to be exact, why don't I consider a trip back to Hungary to visit. Personally, I did not want to go back there ever, because the pain was still there, that what they done to us. My parents were born there. My grandparents were born there. And we were proud, as a matter of fact, at times, that we were in that country, that they stripped our citizenship away from us, and they did not consider us Hungarians. We were just Jews, and that was a painful experience, and I did not want to return to that country. But, well, they tell me, well, time is the best healing element for every ailment. And at that time already I was married. I had 2 small children, and I took a trip because my brother said he has something, a very important gift for me. And this is the watch. My brother still lives in that town outside Budapest. He's a watchmaker and jeweler. And
He lives in your hometown?
In the hometown. And
how many Jews are living there now? It's an interesting time. After all the Jews were taken out.
Today, in that same place where used to be thousands of Jews, only 40 Jews lives in that town. 40. There's no synagogue there. Was burned and bombed out during the Second World War, and only 40 survivors are still living in that city. And I went back, and my brother said to me, guess what? A man came into my shop, a repair shop, and he wanted me to clean this watch and repair it. And he opened up, like I just opened this back of the watch, and to his amazement, whenever they repaired a watch in Europe, they used to engrave the initials into the watch, plus the owner's name and a year. And here it says SZL 1936, 1940, 1941, in 1971, when it was recovered, when this man brought in this watch to repair it, and he asked him, where did you get this watch?
This was 25 years after World War II.
This is 25 years after the war was over. With all the places he could have taken it to repair it, and he brings it back to the rightful owners. And my brother said to him, this is my father's watch. And with that, he tried to grab him, and that man ran out of his repair shop. And that's the way my brother recovered this watch. And I am very proud. I'm the youngest in the family, so my brother said I should have it. And I am making the decision now that eventually this artifact will be placed in a museum, either in New York City, the Holocaust Museum, or the United States Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., which is under construction. Because I feel strongly that I could leave it for my children, but what are they going to do with it? They're going to put it into a drawer and not to be viewed by people. I feel that this priceless item belongs to a museum where people can, this is a fragment of the Holocaust that really survived also. And that's what I'm going to do with also this little prayer book. Now, this was very interesting also.
So they let you get through with it, the SS troops? They didn't find it on your person? You stuck it in your pocket or whatever? I was just saying, the prayer book.
They never find it. It was with me all through the Holocaust. And one day, it was the last camp in Austria when I was praying, and it was a windy day, and an SS grabbed it out of my hand. He apparently recognized that it was a prayer book because of the Hebrew letters here, and he grabbed it out of my hand and he threw it to the wind. And after he left, I picked up whatever is left of the little prayer book, and this is also will be placed in the Holocaust Museum, either in New York City or Washington.
But it's interesting. I wanted to talk to you about these museums. There's a little bit of controversy about putting a museum in America, because after America wasn't too helpful. We touched upon this the last time about, and first of all, I'd like to have your opinion about the role of America and the Allied forces. And for the most part, it's unfortunate to talk about the American Jewry, which there were millions of Jews, what their role, and maybe in an apathetic way, and not maybe obviously helping the Holocaust, but in not doing anything also, of just being too passive during World War II, and what your views upon this are.
Well, finally, they decided, it took years and years. I'll never forget that here in Albany, we have placed a memorial to the Holocaust in the Jewish Community Center, in the lobby there, in front of the swimming pool. And for years and years, we encountered different views, different opinions from synagogues. We offered it to this temple and that temple. Nobody wanted to accept that piece of artwork. It is an artwork, it's the burning bush. And was done by a very fine artist from Schenectady. I think his last name was Blood, B-L-O-O-D, and Robert Blood. And took us years to fight to put that memorial into the Jewish Community Center, because none of the temples wanted to put it into their lobby. And now about the museums, we are very happy,
why do you think this was? What's the reason you think that people didn't? You found such resistance?
Because they felt that, listen, it's past, it's gone, and let's forget about the past. Let's go on with the new life and all that. But I say, and I lecture in many schools, that those who forget the past are bound to repeat that. And we strongly feel the Holocaust survivors, and we have a slogan that never again that the world should allow another Holocaust to appear, let it to be to Jews or Christians or Muslims. And are we going to learn from history? Are we going to repeat? Because many times I am asked, Mr. Segore, is concentration camps possible in the United States? Well, my reply to them is, yes, we had concentration camps in the United States in the early 40s, in 1942, when in California, they interned the American citizens of Japanese extraction, because the war with Japan, the mass hysteria was going through this country that Japan is going to invade someday the United States. So therefore, these Japanese were not to be trusted, although they were born in the United States. They were American citizens. And it took the United States government 40 years to apologize for that shameful act. And as a matter of fact, they awarded every survivor of that shameful act $20,000 of a survival of American citizen of Japanese extraction, receiving $20,000. But how many of them, they died in they were interned and they were guarded by American soldiers. So actually, it was a concentration camp in these United States. And we had an intern camp not too far from Albany, in Oswego, whereby finally in 1944 and early part of 1945, a ship, they allowed 890 refugees. There were about 30 Christian among them, and rest of them, they were Jews, that the Roosevelt administration finally agreed, the State Department, to allow this ship to dock and be received and put these people into intern camps, and providing that when the war is over, they are to return back to their country of the origin. That never happened because finally Truman, the new president, allowed them to stay in the United States. Even just a handful of people, because many ships arrived in the ports of the United States, loaded with the most famous ship was the St. Louis, loaded with Jewish refugees, and they were denied to embarkation, to go to the shores, and they were sent back, right back to Germany, and most of them, they met their fate in the crematorium. So that's why museum is very important to place artifacts. And I saw a program yesterday, and showing that from Washington, that showing that they were showing the new house of the Holocaust Museum.
Well, when's it supposed to be completed?
It's going to be completed by private. It's a privately funded museum, and it's going to be finished within 2 years. Yeah. It's under construction now, and also it's going to be in New York City. But I'm very proud of the Albany Museum has a Holocaust permanent exhibition of the Oswego incident. And my family picture, if I could find it, also displayed in the permanent exhibition of the Holocaust Museum here.
Well, that's very interesting. That I know that many of our viewers probably seen. If not, that they should go see it at the State Museum. We have it right in here in Albany that they put up an exhibit about the Holocaust.
Yes, my family picture is displayed. I don't know where I put it. Displayed permanently on exhibition in the museum here in Albany.
Well, it's because they put it in the State Museum because of Oswego.
Yes, because
the New
of
York
the
State connection.
New York State, yes.
But still, it does educate people about the
facts of the Holocaust. And as a matter of fact, it took also a lot of opposition until they allowed that permanent exhibition.
I didn't know the history about that.
Yes.
It wasn't so easy putting it in.
No, it wasn't not easy. And as a matter of fact, I tried to donate my watch, since I live in Albany, to be part of that, and I was rejected because they claimed that security reason somehow
So no.
would be very difficult to display this watch. But I was told that Washington or New York City already more than happy to accept as a gift, because I am going to eventually donate these two artifacts.
Well, it's interesting that America, like in part of your job also, is you took upon yourself to educate people for the Holocaust. And, you know, you could say it's a little late. You mentioned before that it's 20 years after World War II that people started getting awareness, but better late than never, as
Yes,
the expression goes.
yes, because especially I lectured in public schools as early ages as 6th and 7th graders, and they're very much interested in it. And I am not telling them horror stories, I'm just telling them facts, that what had happened, and that prejudice and that ignorance and prejudice will ultimately could lead to another Holocaust. And I impress upon the students to try to grow up not to be prejudiced, because I had a survey in right there in the classroom that where did you hear prejudice remarks first, at home or in the school? And a majority, the reply was at home. The children, they hear it at home and they take it with them to the schools, and that's the way prejudice and hatred and bigotry starts. And that's why I impress upon them that they should have a deaf ear to when they hear. I told them if they hear an ethnic joke, because in my estimation, ethnic jokes are not funny. It sounds funny, but actually it's only a bigot will just utter ethnic jokes.
But it's important, like I say, that it's only the State Museum. It's only been for a few years, and now, of course, you say Washington, D.C., which I'm sure will be a major tourist attraction when it goes up, because it is the nation's capital, New York City. You can't get any more major
yes, millions and millions of people will have a chance to view,
to observe,
what the Holocaust was all about. And
there's also, like, I know that because I don't know the exact facts, but from all my readings, that probably the major people to survive was like between 15 years old and 30 years old. You always hear this range of people because little kids couldn't survive either the selections, and older people the hard works. And we are 45 years plus after the Holocaust, so I would just think your minimum age, I'm just making generalities, but I'm around the ballpark figure. Your youngest person is going to be that survived. I would think the youngest would be about 60 years old.
Right,
so.
I'm in my 60s, the middle 60s.
Yeah, I would think most people are that. It's getting old.
Yes, that's why
many people also, I mean, like you say, through the beatings, I mean, they're not in the best of health. I know many Holocaust survivors that was, you know, through 2-3 years being beaten and being starved and going through that.
And not only that, Rabbi, I even many times I still have nightmares about it, because I recall that I'm in a camp. At one time, I had a nightmare that I fell off the bed, and my wife said, "What happened?" And I was climbing back. I said, "I just had a very bad nightmare." After so many years, it's about now it's 44 years. It's going to be 45 years after we were liberated by the American Army, and it's so ironic that I was on television many times, and I mentioned the camp named Gunskirchen in Austria, and because when somebody's talking about the Holocaust, you hear of Auschwitz, you hear of Buchenwald, you hear of Dachau, but you rarely hear about smaller camps. And the last camp when I was liberated by the American Army was Gunskirchen outside Linz, Austria, and a local attorney was tuning in that day on a TV program. And when he heard that, he called me up, and he says that how he was so thrilled that I mentioned that's his unit liberated my camp in Austria. So it proves that how small this world is. That
You ended up in the same city.
met in the same city one of my liberators that I own. Actually, I own my life to them because I was 40 pounds of flesh and just skin and bones that when the American troops arrived, and I was taken to a hospital where they were unable to inject the IV. They spoon-fed me with oatmeal in a hospital for weeks and weeks.
Just to build up
a strength.
I don't know if you can describe it, just when the Americans came into your camp over here, the undescribable
joy over
here.
It was just a jubilation of, as I said, we heard rumors, again, rumors were always around, and that the American troops are nearby, and we were waiting, and then finally one day when my camp was the very last camp in May 5th, 1945.
That's pretty
was
late already.
Liberated.
Because, that was just, what, a few days before the
actual end of the hostilities in Europe.
Yeah. Because you're right on the front, right in the middle line over here, right
yes,
in
and we were
in the final line.
And we were taken to, as a matter of fact, I almost died after because when we were freed, we were nearby a farm, and we found some food, and we ate so much at once that our system was not able to digest that food, and I became so ill that I almost died when it was all over.
Well, there's all the good experiences after that, I hope. But that it's important, again, I think, for our viewers to understand that Mr. Segore is here not just to relate his personal histories, but I think that's important for us to all realize what a segment of the Jewish people and, like you say, of humanity has gone through, but the other hands of other human beings, if you can call them that. And many survivors are now relating their histories and making it aware, really, of what really did happen, and with their firsthand. It's not some historian or some person somewhere other country.
Yes,
it's their firsthand evidence and witnesses of the atrocities and their own personal experiences of what happened to them during World War II. So many people now are just relating their histories. Again, it's 45 years later, but better late than never, because it is getting late. I mean, the survivors can't, bis 120, you say in Yiddish, everybody should live till 120, but we have to deal with the facts in front of us, and it's important that they relate the story as much as they can, when they can. So I think it's important what you're doing, and I mean, you're at the forefront of the organization in Albany now.
Well, I am very happy to say that we have a fine organization, and we are trying to, as I said, we're going to different schools, especially during the time of the Yom HaShoah and the Day of Remembrance, that we are requested. As a matter of fact, I'm going to, next week, I'm going to go to the Albany Girls Academy, and I was, last year I lectured at Skidmore College and Siena College, and as a matter of fact, I was there twice already, in Albany High School and throughout the area. Especially, I'm very enthusiastic when I go to rural areas of our county, like I went to Greenville on Ichabod Crane in Columbia County, that they never heard about the Holocaust. They have studied some of it. They know as much as that Anna Frank, they read about Anna Frank, that little Dutch Jewish girl. But they never saw a survival of the Holocaust, and they are they were asking me intelligent questions, and I'm very happy to go out there and spend an hour to lecture on the Holocaust.
I want to thank you very much, Mr. Segore, because of course for our listeners also, hopefully that they're educated and understand
so.
what the survivor has gone through. First of all, like you say, basically to realize that it was the truth, as horrible it may sound, or just maybe the human experience. You just don't want to. You just want to push out your head that such things happened, and maybe it's a good thing about a human being.
That's my aim, is to relay the message as long as I'm able to, that yes, the Holocaust took place.
Thank you very much for Mr. Segore.
My pleasure.